Hello and welcome to another one of our interesting videos. This one is we're going to talk about flexibility and stretching. Basically, I'm going to use the analogy of like wheels. So in the case here you can see wheels on a car, and I'm going to use the analogy of like how the bike or a car will run really smooth if everything, the wheels are all exactly how they're meant to be. If there's a problem with the wheel, well, the car's just not going to run very smooth. Alright, so basically a healthy body means well balanced, so everything's just as it's supposed to be, aligned and all nice and great. It's a smooth ride, no problems, alright, just like the wheels on your car. But what if your wheels have problems? So, well, obviously you're going to need to investigate. You're going to have to look carefully to find where the problem is. So if the wheel is wobbly, then your first thing is to look at the wheel nuts, see if there's some of them coming loose, and you would tighten them up. If the wheel is very stiff and rigid, it's possible that the nuts might be too tight. Alright, so now if I use, it's on a car, there's only like 6 wheel nuts there. So if I go to the using the analogy of a bicycle wheel, it's going to make a bit more sense. But basically you can sort of sum up stretching in this way. If strengthening sort of contracts muscles and tightens things up, it'll tighten the wheel. So if you don't restore it back to its normal shape, it'll continue to get tighter and tighter and become rigid, and you'll encounter problems, and everyone knows that. Stretching does the exact opposite, loosens things. So at times people are overdoing stretching. And I see this quite often with yoga and dancers, gymnastics even, and they need some great flexibility, but they go beyond what's optimal for the wheel to run nice and true and balanced. So being too tight and being too loose are equally as bad. You'll end up in the same place for the different reason. Alright, so all strength training stuff tries to tighten things up. There is an element of stretching within the exercise if you're working through full range of motion, but just the process of damaging the fibres will make them shorten, and over time, if you don't restore them with something to counter that, you'll have problems. And stretching is the exact opposite. So if you're loosening stuff, it's great, but if you're never doing anything just to make sure that everything's tightened up as it's supposed to be to a certain point, you'll encounter problems. So if we move forward to the looking like our muscles are like the spokes on a wheel. So you can't have a one size fits all program. You can't follow someone else's program. You can only design your own stretching program based on what needs to be loosened. So all these spokes on the wheel here, imagine they're all muscles. Alright, so if I went around and loosened all of them, this would be the end result of my wheel, because when you stretch it, you make it weaker, it's just not going to be. The spokes are there to hold the rim to be very stable, so that it doesn't buckle like the picture here. So if you're already weak and you've got instability and you stretch it even more, then you risk breaking your wheel, and vice versa. If you don't stretch at all, you risk breaking your wheel. So there needs to be an intelligent approach to how to do this. Alright, so how do you do it? How do you fix your wheel if it's broken? Alright, so I'm going to take you through. So the simple rules to follow are: phase 1, complete a stretching assessment covering all of the main joints. Make a note of anything that is tight as needing to be stretched. Make a note of anything that's different from a left to right. So example, left hamstring is good but the right one is not. Make a note that you're only going to stretch your right hamstring. Lastly, make a note of the loose areas, because they'll need further investigation later for stability and strengthening to tighten them up. Alright, so examples. There's many ways you can. I've just given you a handful here. You can really, the endless amount of stretches you can do, but basically I've given you a couple here for the neck. Very important to stretch through the neck. The shoulders, this one's a common one. We find most people can't do this. And usually the dominant hand is the hardest. So in this case here, this is her left hand, which she's a right-hander, but so you would find her right hand is more tight than the left one. Hamstrings, hips, hips and quads, calves, another important one. Upper hamstrings, sort of a back mobility test, this one. But basically, if anything that she finds hard to do now becomes a stretching, needs to be improved. If it's not hard to do, it means don't do it. So in the case of this one, she's exactly where she needs to be. She just needs to maintain it and look after it. But definitely don't improve it, and don't spend time trying to get better at it. In the case of this one, where she's not optimally where she should be, she needs to improve that. It needs to get to a point where it can be better. Alright, these ones are both okay, as are this one. Alright, so that's examples of how you would design a stretching program, just from basic simple tests. You don't even, you know, people using instruments and stuff like that, you don't really need to go that far. You just need to like compare from one side to the other, and it usually stands out if it's not right. So alright, so the key points: only stretch what's tight, never stretch something that's already loose. Always warm up first, never stretch a cold muscle, you'll just risk tearing it. Make sure you breathe relaxed. It's another one I see a lot of people make a mistake. They stretch too far and then they hold their breath and stiffen up. It defeats the point of stretching, becoming too stiff. PNF is the best to use during workouts. PNF is when you use a contract relax method, where you contract, you push against someone or a band if you've got that, or even a ball sometimes. Push against it for 5 seconds and contract the opposing muscle, and then you relax, and then you can take the stretch that little bit further. It's definitely the fastest way to improve flexibility. It's just best done with a partner, and it's great done within a workout where you loosen the tight side and then strengthen the weak side. It's a very effective method, and we use that quite a lot. Static stretching is best late at night, and usually and always after workouts, not before. So I generally hold 30 seconds to a minute, you know, very relaxed breathing, and if you do it consistently day after day, good things will happen and you'll have a nice balanced wheel. If you have any questions about this and want more information, go to our website. There's stacks of information, as is there on our YouTube channel, and there's plenty of forms to get in touch with me if you want to email me or ask me questions or book in for a consultation. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you on the next video.